we're live. Hello, everyone. We have 5 concurrent viewers. Well, Jay's here.
I am here. How are you, Claire?
I'm very well, thank you. It's been quite a productive weekend for me.
Where are we at now? Is it Monday? Every day seems the bloody same, doesn't it?
Well, it's like it's Monday again, it's a weekend again, it's Christmas again, it's summer again. You know.
It's funny how there are people who I associate with who they their weeks are kind of run by football or weekly golf tournaments or things. So Saturday and Sunday it's Premiership football, and you kind of know what's going on and with sports betting and stuff like that. But when there's no sport going on, there's no other stuff as well, I guess. Regular events like even whether it be church things or whatever, every day just seems exactly the same.
Yeah. So, but has your routine been disrupted much, or is it more or less the same?
No, I mean it's exactly the same, to be honest. It I'm applying what Boris said today was very good British common sense. He said that'll fight the virus. And
There
the
is no
whole
British common sense. What
oh,
is
there
it?
is.
I haven't seen any of it.
That's because you blind to it, perhaps. I think you've seen a lot of British insanity as well, and I'll give you that. But I want to ask you about your productive weekend. But
It's all in terms of ideas anyway, so I've got nothing to show for it. And I haven't even written them down, but it's like, oh, they're coming, one after the other. I've got so many great ideas.
that's good.
And perhaps over the next few weeks or months, you'll see it coming. But I think we're kind of coming to a head now about, well, so many things, really, for the
I feel that.
lockdown.
I feel like I feel it. But just if I can quickly say, there's Elizabeth's messaging me now. But uh, there was a. I mean, I send it to you, but I'll explain for people who are listening as well. There was a bike, a cycle that I'm interested in buying, and it was £500. Probably worth about 1,000. I could have bought it and sold it on eBay for 900. And there was 2 or 3 people asking what size it is, and one guy said, "I'm interested. Do you do NHS discounts?"
And what was your answer?
Well, I mean, no, I wasn't selling it. It was like I was looking to buy it. The guy who's selling it, I kind of felt for him as well because, judging by the look of the house and the whole thing, it was a fairly like well-to-do people. It wasn't like against a brick wall with syringes like you see them in London. The
Oh,
bikes
you're
that are
you're
so
you're buying a bike. I thought you were selling
yeah.
yours.
No, I was not selling it, but it's just that I get a sense that remember a month ago I made up an analogy like a person's in the dock and the judge says you've been found guilty of robbery and murder. Have you got anything to say for yourself? And the criminal says, I work for the NHS. And the judge says, oh, you can go then,
Okay. Clap for
So
me, clap for me. It's Thursday,
yeah,
8 o'clock.
so it's like, oh, you put an offer in for a bike on. It's not eBay, but it's a similar type of site. And do you accept NHS discounts? And it's just like, I think it sums up a hell of a lot about the madness that's going on now. Not so much for the NHS people, but more so just for the way that the whole climate, social climate, emotional climate has gone with, you know, um, with this whole thing. So, um,
For the better or the worse, are you saying?
well, I'll be honest, it's embarrassing. You mentioned about English common sense. Um, remember Elizabeth called it like the popcorn syndrome, where all you got to do is just eat popcorn and watch them all fall apart. And Elizabeth sent me some clips of her Facebook page where people are complaining, almost crying. I mean, we're talking grown men. The government said, one bloke said, I don't know how often to wash my hands. I don't know how often to sanitize them. Can I visit? Can I? And it's just like, for God's sake, I mean, Boris has got a point. Use your fucking brains.
Yeah.
Like it's just these people that they kind of enjoy being the drama of what's going on, and
Yeah,
they
because
enjoy.
they get the publicity like every evening, the coronavirus update, and they stand there telling us what to do, and and I actually don't listen. I can't be bothered to listen. But I guess for politicians, it's their 15 minutes of fame, showing off how masterful they are. But your joke about British common sense, it reminds me of a joke that being made about British intelligence, and what's British intelligence? Well, it doesn't exist. Ha 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 ha.
Well, I was arguing with OV quite a lot in the night or early morning. I only intended to go on for 10 minutes, but it ended up a lot longer, and there was a few people chucking stuff at me. But
What were you saying, Jay?
there was a lot of stuff. But OV had his crowd, and I think he had a bit of vodka, so he went from being OV, the guy who I chat with, into being the Nazi larper, into being the leader, and as the alcohol kind of got a bit more into his system, he was more into like I represent the Nazis, and I dedicate my life to the cause, and stuff like that, and it was quite amusing or interesting, I guess. But he was on about the Spitfire and British, and how the Germans designed it. The Germans designed it, and he forgets to finish the story off where, well, how on earth did the British get it? And I did ask him that, as I do every time, and he says that the British managed to steal the plans from the Germans, and I'm like, well, there you go.
Right.
I mean,
there's British intelligence for you.
End of it, OV, and yeah, I was asking him a lot of questions and stuff, and he was getting, I wouldn't say angry, but he's got a desire to change the way I think, and he's got like you have, and I don't really have a desire to change the way that he thinks. I've got a desire to waken you up a little bit in a few areas. I've got that, but I don't lose sleep over it. But I haven't got I'm not an activist, and I don't. It doesn't bother me if you.
Well, the way you're talking, I keep thinking, well, perhaps we're all kind of sparring partners.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and obviously, if you do a bit of sparring, one has to be seen to win or not win, and then you can say, oh, are you amateur or are you professional?
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, the point I was making to OV, which really triggered him, was I said to him that I completely salute and support his decision to get out of LA or California, wherever he is, and if he goes to North Dakota, he may be a lot. It may be a lot better for him.
Or
and
he might miss LA terribly.
Well, I did get to that as well, but I also said to him, which really triggered him, was I said, it will be interesting how your activism goes, your delivery with this stuff, when you change. And he didn't like that very much, and he was saying, no, I'm a Nazi through and through. Wherever I go, it doesn't matter where.
I was a Nazi all my life.
Yeah, he was, and I was like, no, OV, no, and I was explaining from experience that if you move and really change your surroundings, it can change your perspective. I could be wrong. I said, but if you, and then another guy, a boxing guy, Durden, was on, and he didn't really understand what I was saying. Fair enough, but I was saying that OV could he could go there, he could start get a job, he might get married, he might have a family, God forbid, you know. And I said your perspectives might change a little bit. You could get more fascist. You could get, you know, but he didn't like that. He didn't like the thought of you know, his ego role being challenged, I think. And I was just saying it from as a guy to a guy, you know, it would be interesting if you move. I mean, if you move back to Malaysia, I'd say, oh, I'd find it interesting how, you know, how you found it, whether you were still as ferocious with your views, or, you know, whether you continue to kick out content as much. But if you say something like that to somebody, I think who's possibly, I wouldn't say fragile, but well, yeah, I would, I'll be honest, but with that sort of stuff. And yeah, so that was pretty interesting. You know, chatting with him this morning. So tell me about your weekend. You said you've had a productive weekend, which has led to some ideas.
Well, yeah, because a lot of this stuff is like, you know, new angles to advance a narrative, and I know you were all at OVs and not watching Week in Review, but I was watching Week in Review, and it's like, oh, it's so boring. What's the point of it? It's so wrong, and then you know, at the end of it, it's like, oh, actually, it's been quite useful, and it does show some progress in the development of ideas. And what they were talking about was what Duvid and Jen were talking about was this proto no-hide-dism, which is one of the words of Duvid, and he was talking about this in reference to the debate that Stefan Molyneux and JF were having. And I know you know all day long, so boring, who cares, and whatever. But do you remember anything about it, or it's not something you care about?
No. I think you spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, that about some. I mean, to be honest, most of it is just.
Can I try to sum it up for you, so
yeah.
you can understand? Because I don't really want to show off or whatever, and I think it's also quite important. These are quite important ideas. So basically, JF was saying, I'm a moral nihilist. I don't really believe in anything. The world is like me. So when I say murder is wrong, I'm just saying I would prefer not to be murdered. When I say theft is wrong, I would prefer not to have things stolen from me. But Stefan Molyneux was saying, it's obvious, isn't it, that all civilized, rational people would agree with me that there should be laws against murder, laws against theft, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and, And Jay was saying, well, yeah, it might suit you to say that, but maybe when push comes to shove, you might murder somebody, you might have sex with somebody's wife, you might do all those things. So maybe you're being okay. So that was basically what that debate was all about, and they couldn't. Neither one, and I'm just saying it's a stupid debate anyway, because one of them is just saying the world is like this, and the other was saying, yeah, but it should be something else.
But they're both valid. I mean, I can see both the points of view.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why no one, if you frame the debate in this way, nobody will ever win, because you can see that on the one hand we all agree that that there should be laws against murder and theft, and on the other hand we do see people stealing, and we could see ourselves doing the same thing if we were so desperate that we needed to do those things.
But don't you think with some of these debates, imagine that me and you are arguing over an orange, and you're screaming to me, it's an orange, and I'm saying, no, it's a citrus fruit. And it's
well, somebody should point out then that we're arguing, maybe we could resolve the argument by saying, well, orange is a citrus fruit. But I'm saying their argument could have been disputed, like saying, okay, which is better, and the whole thing could have been resolved by asking people, well, who would you rather be your leader? Would you like Stefan Molyneux, who says he supports these moral absolutes, or JF, who we know has sex with mentally deficient women and says he has no principles? Who would you rather lead you if you had to choose a leader?
That's interesting. So, just so I understand you, you're saying that if people had to choose between one or two of them to be their leader, then that should discern which one of them is
The winner.
the winner, yeah, but not necessarily the correct.
Well, no, because then you can go on and say, well, Stefan might say all these, principle things, but when push comes to shove, he might break these principles. But that would be better. It's like, well, he's declared his principles, so if he breaks them later, we can say, oh, Stefan, you're such a bad guy, you lied to us, you said you believed in these things and you don't, so we'll get rid of you. But, if you tried to say that to JF, you said, well, I never said I had any principles, you still chose me. What do you expect as I kill you and rape your wives and daughters?
Well, I think it brings up a lot of the stuff that you've been hollering at me recently about don't want rules and don't want to conform, and I've still yet to hear a rule from you that I don't want to fit into. But Stefan Molyneux sounds like the old Ten Commandments, Noahide law stuff, where he's kind of needs to be told. You can apply this to this Corona-19, where there's some people who need to be told not to go and hug strangers. There's some people that are pretty stupid, and you shouldn't eat a live animal or you shouldn't murder. I mean, I guess in those days those laws maybe needed to be set down, but I think people like myself, to a point, Conops is a good example, JF in this, we kind of naturally assume that people have got a bit of something about them, and they don't need to be treated like barbarians by being told, you shouldn't jump in front of a car, you shouldn't, jump off a cliff or whatever, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's interesting. I think you need both. I mean,
well, yeah, because nothing is really obvious until it's pointed out again and again and again. Because there'll be some really obvious things, and somebody does it, and then they blame you and say, "Why didn't you tell me?" And you think, "Well, I thought it was obvious."
But this is quite good because it leads on to the thing where, like, we yet again have hit a point where it's almost like a brick wall to do with our conversations, where what I represent and what you represent. You, and I'm the same with you, so it's not a criticism, it's just a state of play, but you cannot get past it in your head what I'm on about, or you just don't understand it.
Well, I feel the same about you.
Pardon?
I feel the same about you.
No, I know. That's what I've said. It's and already you're reacting.
Maybe we should take tests, like Jay. What have I been saying all these years? And then you say, well, she's most technical, and whatever, and I can correct you.
Oh no, because
Claire, what I've been saying all these years I've known you, and then maybe we can write an essay, and then maybe we can mark each other's papers.
No, they were talking about you today on the OV's channel, and I don't defend you, but OV asked that question again, which is he asked it last week. He said, "What I want to know is Claire pro-Jewish or anti-Jewish?" And I said neither. And the other people were really interested in that. There was 2 or 3 people on the stream, and they were interested. So I spent a couple of minutes just basically explaining that how you're almost external from it, and how you see it like it's like a chemistry experiment where the top dogs allegedly, because they say they're chosen and they're supposed to lead by example, they're not, blah blah blah. And it's basically, and I think I said the quarterback thing, where everything comes from the quarterback, and if the quarterback's not delivering, then how can the rest of the team play?
I'm not quite sure what the quarterback does in American football. Maybe you could explain it for the benefit of British listeners.
in your political and religious um, ideal world, the Jews are the quarterback.
Well, they push the ball forward. Is that what?
Yeah, in
Okay, okay.
American football, the quarterback starts every play, meaning he has hold of the ball and he's got about 2 seconds to look round and fling it at one of his team, and they then have got to advance 10 yards, whatever. But the quarterback, if the quarterback's no good, the team is no good. You don't win games with a bad quarterback. It's all down to the quarterback, really. So they can kind of win or lose games, and if the and so from my understanding, what you're saying, and if there's any people listening, they'll probably be throwing hand grenades at me. But in your mind, the Jews are top dogs because they say so, which I personally think it's insane. It's the Jen Shaft school of I'm a great leader, and I'm amazing, and you have to respect me. It's no different to the Jews saying we're chosen because, well, who chose you? Us, God. How do you know? Well, we wrote it down.
Yeah, yeah, but that is the thing. Even if it's all lies, okay, Jay. I mean, let's
Mhm.
assume it's all lies. I mean, they can still say, well, we thought of it first, and we said
Well,
it
yeah,
first.
yeah, and that's
No, no,
that's
no, no, no.
yeah, which is kind of what it is, really. And people are scared to challenge it, or they create laws which make it illegal to challenge it, which is wrong. But but what I was saying was that you look at it, and because of the way your brain operates, it's very clinical. It's almost like a physician. You don't do politics with feeling. I don't mean emotional feeling, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of awareness on certain elements of it. But you do it as if it's a physical experiment or a chemical experiment, and you say, right, well, if they do that like they're supposed to, then that means that will happen. That will react to that happen, and that will react to that happen. So you see it as like kind of domino effect.
Well, yeah, a kind
And
of mechanism that.
yeah, completely, completely. But the things that you seem to forget are the things that I and many others kind of uh, try to fire back at you, you know. And that's where I think you are unaware, and that's just because of your culture, your upbringing, the way you are. And that's not criticism; it's not praise. It's just the way you are, And um, so I was explaining to them that that's how you see it. So you're not pro. Because if you were pro-Jewish, you'd have converted. If you were anti-Jewish, you'd say, I
Well,
don't even
well,
think.
I'm trying to explain really. Like, I mean, if you were a dog breeder or a cat breeder or any kind of a breeder, it's like it's like somebody saying, "Well, do you favour the male or the female?" It's like, well, I have to look after both of them well, and I have to make sure that they're both of good pedigree, and blah 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 blah. You can't say, "Oh, I only favour one," because the other one is not important. Because
But though, yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, it's like being a parent and you've got three children. You have to organise things so all three of them hopefully benefit equally. And that's the problem. You're never going to get anywhere especially on these streams, by saying that the people who have got the power, they're the ones that we have to wait for them to start doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's the whole crux of anti-Semitism is like, why the fuck do we?
yeah, but you don't do it yourselves. So,
No,
you
but that,
can't really
that's
complain that, you're waiting for somebody else to do it, and they
yeah.
won't.
No, exactly. I mean, I always talk about an example, and if you're not demonstrating it yourself, you can't look to others to do it. But as you said the other day, that the shit comes down from the top. So you've got Muslims and Christians saying, well, why should we follow our religions when they don't follow theirs? So, as you said, the solution and the problem lies with upstairs, with the quarterback. So it's almost like it's handing over power to the powers that be, which everybody thinks is wrong.
Well,
So it's
okay, we can only take power. It's sort of sometimes you want to get things done and you know that you won't be listened to. So you go to the person who will be listened to, who has access to, the big guy who can, the movers and shakers that will do the thing you want them to do. So, I mean, there's no point saying, well, I can do it. And it's like, well, actually, it's quicker if you just go through the proper channels and, get the, relevant government official or politician or whoever it is that will solve your problem. So, I mean, that's how I see it. So, it's like, it's even true. It even exists now. It's like, people say, oh, the Jews, this and that. And then you think, okay, they're overrepresented in the media and academia and the professions. It's like, whether it's deserved or not, they have that position. And if you want something to happen, you have to get the top people to say the thing. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be Jewish, but it's like whoever's in charge to, like you might go to the president or the prime minister or whatever to get things done. Except that I guess we know that maybe they're not really in charge.
So if there was a book, suddenly if a book was found, like in the caves in Bethlehem, and it was like written years before all of this Jewish stuff, and the book was a Christian book. I know it's relatively impossible, and it said we're the chosen ones. There's going to be some like a tribe after us.
The Catholic Church did try to do that and call themselves God's people.
Who was that?
Well, the Catholic Church tried to do that, saying, "Oh, you're no longer God's chosen people." It's been done before, Jay. So the Catholic Church said, no, you're terrible people. You're the synagogue of Satan, and you're whited sepulchres and whatever, and say, oh, you're no longer God's chosen. I mean, the Muslims say the same thing about them. You're such bad people that you're no longer God's chosen people, right? So it's not unknown for this to happen. It's happened, already.
Okay, but I mean, surely you can understand the perspective of like, why do we have to wait for XYZ people to sort themselves out, or like it's?
From my point of view about selling secular Quranism, well, I mean, obviously it would help if I got Jews to say, that secular Quranism is more Noahide than Christianity. That would help me. So that's what I'm trying to get them to do. But I mean, there's no point asking Christians because the Christians are just saying, the solution is Christianity, which I think is kaput.
But why would Jewish scholars or rabbis, whatever, why on earth would they want to acknowledge another, let's just say, power if they believe they're top dog? Why the hell would they want to listen to you? And that's not a personal.
No, I understand that. That's an excellent question. So what's in it for them?
But for them, yeah.
and really, so my answer to them, my response to them would be, well, you're supposed to be God's chosen people, right? And they'll say yes. So what were you chosen for? And and it does say, well, to be light unto the nation. So people are supposed to follow you, right? And you have to be doing something in order to, something good, something that they otherwise wouldn't do. And what about your Noahide laws? So this is what what it's all about. It's like, well, obviously not everybody can be Jews because we're so special. We're God's chosen people. And Gentiles, well, there are many different kinds of Gentiles. Not all of them are good. So the righteous Gentile, the ones allowed to live in Israel, will have to follow the Noahide laws, which is those 7, laws that I mentioned to you, and if they but they don't have to follow 613 laws that Jews have to do when they were living in Israel. So they're saying obviously there will be Gentiles living in Israel. They would have their minorities, and they're always saying, well, how should they live? Because we observe the Sabbath, they don't have to, and there'll be rules about can you get them to work then if they're Gentiles? And obviously I think it's useful. Like, well, I can't do the work because today
But
because it's
look. I'm quite, not as well knowledge in this sort of stuff. But you're not going to get any. It sounds to me. Imagine there's like 4 or 5 guys ready to go out to a party or go to a pub or whatever, and they're all deciding what they'd like to do, but it all hinges down to one person, and they have to wait until this one person like makes his mind up or says, well, no, I want to do that. And that's all of this, like,
oh no, not necessarily, but I think in the current situation, I just don't see how anyone can actually start something off. I mean, if I go to the Christians, they'll say, come to become Christian, and I already know it's not going to work, and I'm not going. I don't expect them to, go anything beyond saying Christianity is not kaput. Come to church. So
Christianity is not kaput, but it's just not doing the things that you want it to do.
So what I'm trying to say to the Jews is that you were chosen for a reason. What is that reason? You're supposed to promote the Noahide laws. Are you promoting the Noahide laws? No. How can you best promote, and what about the 4 other world religions? Which one is the most Noahide observant? And they'd have to say Islam.
But so what? Why on earth would they want to acknowledge something else?
Yeah,
it's not
because I'm saying that anti-Semitism would rise according to how little they promote the Noahide laws, because the Noahide laws is about good government and laws that keep most people reasonably happy. And if governments go against that, and I'm afraid we all have in the West, people will get angry and confused and distrustful of the government and blame Jews. So if they don't do what they're supposed to do, then people will hate them.
Do you think the a major cause of anti-Semitism is the fact that Jews do not follow the religion yet preach it?
Yeah, they assimilate. They're not supposed to.
So are you saying that your problem, the problem that you have, is the main problem with all of this is the Jews?
Yeah. And they can solve the problem too, because by not following their own rules and becoming liberal and secular and having the best of both worlds, they get themselves hated.
But that's exactly what, when you get back to Jesus turning the tables over, that was the hypocrisy of making money and all the celebrity garb of the external 600 and whatever rules. It's
because I think Jesus was saying, you shouldn't be. They were obviously breaking a lot of their rules at the time, which is why the Romans had already taken over. So how did the Romans take over? These Jews were fighting amongst each other, and then stupidly, they asked the Romans to settle their dispute for them, and then the Romans said, yeah, all right, and now we'll take over, which they did. So obviously they weren't happy bunnies, and always wanted to kick out the Romans, but they couldn't get themselves together to do that. So every time they tried, they got punished worse, until the Romans got so fed up with them, they kicked them out of their own country. So that was what happened.
Do you ever wonder? I mean, I know that Gandalf was going down this route, but I mean, do you ever think that the whole system is kaput in terms of the 3 religions or Abrahamic religions? Do you ever think that it's still just they're still all fucking fighting or still?
Well, I mean, the problem, if the problem is people not following the rules, then the solution must be people following the rules again.
But from what I've learned, especially with religion or brackets, even physical fitness, or any kind of discipline, humans don't follow rules meticulously. That computers do. Saying that my iMac crashed last week, which was frightening. But in general, humans do not follow rules. They have desires, urges, impulses, lazy, sloth. They lose motivation. Human beings are not reliable, which is why if you get somebody who's reliable, people say, "Oh, he's a very reliable man," which implies that most of us aren't.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this man's really honest. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah, but
okay,
most people are terrible. Yes.
yeah. So humans, I mean, we're not like herding cats, but humans are fallible, and so if you have a religion or any program, to be honest, which I guess religion is, that it's almost made with the preempted opinion that we know you're not going to follow this to the letter of the law, but the closer you do follow it, the better it'll be. So, maybe it's part of the deal that these people. I mean, Jesus spoke about that saying that if you want the ultimate glory, like success in these areas, you need to really, really commit. And if you've got any problems in your life, as opposed to addressing them directly, address God. And from that, the problems cease to be problems. And most of our problems come from thinking there's a problem and our perception of what a situation is. So there might be, like a child has, every day they have a problem. But as an adult, we look at them and it's like, no, it's not a problem, and so, yeah, so to these religions, I mean, who the hell? Do you remember? This is why your argument with me, I think, it shows that you don't. And I said this the other day in private comms with you, but I don't think you fully understand the makeup of the human being, meaning human beings are not perfect.
I know they're not.
So when you say, okay, hang on. So when you say to me, and this is where like our conversations kind of hit that brick wall point. So when you say to me, do you believe in God? My answer has never changed, and that's on average a third of the time, yes, a third of the time, perhaps, and a third of the time, fuck God. And I think that's sanity. It's healthy. Like, I'm not a God, and I'm not a LARPer in that sense of running around like a Christian saying God is every,
But you don't have to believe in God. You can just decide to follow his laws, and you're kind of, so because you're not sure he exists, you're not sure whether to follow his laws or not. But I'm saying it's possible not to believe in God, but decide that his rules are the ones to follow. Which is my position anyway.
But you can do both. I mean, for internally, in my own like life, that's sometimes yes, sometimes maybe, sometimes no. But it's the same with Christianity. So you're looking for almost a binary: is Christianity kaput? Is Christianity, kaput? And in some ways, yes. And is it working? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. But you need, because the way you operate, or your brain operates, or maybe it's from the legal perspective, you're either guilty or you're not guilty.
Well, you
That's
have
what
to. I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned the binary code, because that is it's for computers. Computers won't be saying, "Oh, maybe I'm not sure. It's a bit of a grey area." It is a little bit nuanced. It's like you want the damn thing to decide what to do.
But with something like, for example, Christianity or any like religion, it's like, I mean, God, if you look at Boris Johnson, people, or Trump, for example, like, are they working as good prime ministers or presidents? And it's like, well, yes and no.
We don't know, but it doesn't look like it's the going's good at the moment.
No, but so if you're asking, let me ask you this question, and you'll see how it feels: is Islam kaput?
Where is it kaput? here,
No,
or is it
no, 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 no.
elsewhere?
Don't,
Because
don't.
the question is too
Well,
vague.
you. Oh, hang on, Claire. Yeah, Claire. Yeah. You're exactly proving my point that, and you cannot answer the question. Is Islam kaput?
Obviously, when I say is Christianity kaput, I mean in the West, is it kaput? And then if you say no, then I'll have to ask you how is it working?
Okay. Right. Is Islam kaput in the Middle East?
Well, most people seem to be Muslims. No Muslim is asking himself that question, and if you ask him, he'll say, "No, it's not kaput. I go to the mosque, but what do you mean?"
What are your thoughts on the current uprising of gay homosexuals in Iran?
I don't know anything about that.
We've spoke about it quite a few times, and I've sent you an article about a year ago on it.
Well, I'm afraid it's
And
not the top of
okay,
my
let's go back to the
mind, but
question.
I'm
Let's go
sure
back to
there
the.
are gay people. Will be young people who want to liberalise, right? Is that what you're saying? That these, I
Well,
know
no,
that
but
they've got the pill now, and that they don't seem to realise that that is, fundamentally the problem. They've got the pill, and the Japanese had the pill, and then they suffered, you know, low birth rates.
okay. So if I say to you, "Is Islam kaput in Iran?" What do you say?
Not noticeably, because it's still keeping itself together as a country and not having liberal democracy imposed on it.
But liberalism is seeping its ugly claws and talons into Iran. So, would you say that Islam is strong enough to withstand the liberal onslaught?
Um, in theory, yes, because you can say, well, what's gone wrong, and I'm just and obviously, if you have a youth bulge, which is what they have in Iran, you will want people who want new ideas. Why should we listen to our elders? It hasn't done them much good. We want a better life. We want to have sex with each other. Outside marriage, what's the harm? The Westerners. It's like that they'll be wanting to do all kinds of things that weren't permitted. And they'll say, well, we can't see how, what good it's done to us. And look at the West, aren't they having wonderful fun with their elections and whatever? Who knows what they're really thinking, but I can imagine that the grass is always greener.
Is Islam kaput in England?
Well, that I was hoping you'd ask that question, and I'm saying Islam cannot work if you don't make the principles of the Quran law. You have to enforce them. Otherwise, you're basically a car without an engine, or a car with an engine with no oil. So it's not enough to say, well, you can inwardly believe in God, but live in a society where gay marriage is permitted, where everybody has sex outside marriage, and is gay, and of course eventually you or your children will lose faith and assimilate. So for the Islam to work, you have to have Sharia. That is really the crux of the matter, and that's what triggers so many people. Like, oh, you want to spoil our fun, do you? Well, we'll know what to do. We know what to do with you then.
Hmm. I find it interesting when your questions are put back on you. How you how I think you answered them well. I'll give you that. But don't you see how these answers to these questions and it's impossible to answer in a binary way. You didn't say yes or no to any of them.
Well, I sought clarification. So when you said, is Christianity kaput or Islam kaput, I'd say obviously not in Afghanistan, not in
No,
Pakistan, not but in the West, and you could ask further questions like, how do you know it's kaput? And then I'd be happy to, but I think you have to ask further questions to finally get to the point about whether it is kaput or not and whether something ought to be done about it.
But that's okay. So when I say that about Christianity, so you say to me, I mean, how many times do you think you've either messaged me or spoke to me or said to me on stream, is Christianity kaput? Or do you believe in God? I'd say thousands.
Yeah, but obviously I'm not happy with the question, which is why I keep asking you. So maybe I was hoping you would give me a better answer.
Well, if I
Then maybe,
no,
or
no, no, no.
sometimes.
But the answer that you give me is the answer that I give you, where I say that in certain areas it's working, in certain areas it's not working.
In what areas is Christianity working, please? I don't think you've ever answered that question, or if you did, I don't remember.
Well, we spoke about it in the last month with that. What was the name of that historian with the teeth and the glasses? Somebody Wood, was it? What's his name?
Keith Woods?
Keith, was it?
Sorry, I know that we haven't spoken to anybody called Keith Woods. He's just some Irish guy who I'm not sure who you want to.
No, there was a historian, and you were frothing at the mouth because he likened COVID-19 to Christianity as a virus.
Oh, Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, sorry, right, Tom Holland. So, if you have, if you could remove, withdraw, delete Christianity from, let's just say the country, then you've basically got humans or barbarians, cavemen, living in society where the rule of you can go and club anybody you want, you can go and steal from them, you can murder them, you can drive your car into there. There's no common decency.
I don't think that would happen. I mean, I don't see the highway code being immediately ignored because Christianity is no longer the official religion of this country.
But if you took Christianity out of the country, you would have men at your door tonight, probably smashing it down.
I don't accept that, Jay. I really don't think immediately, because I think Christianity went away a long time ago. We still have laws against burglary, against theft and murder, and sporadically the police seem to enforce it, and so do the courts, not as well as we would like, but officially you're not supposed to burgle people, invade their homes.
But the thing with Christianity, the thing about the common decency and treating others how you want to be treated and things like that, if you take that out, for example, you're going to have people really, really hurting and doing what they want towards other people. So
I think you're confusing Christianity with the rule of law. I mean, there is no law, no legal law that says you have to treat other people as you would be treated. I mean, this is just a sort of behavioural guide as to, don't go around hurting people's feelings and dropping litter in people's homes and that kind of thing.
But this level of moral behaviour, which Christianity encourages, is.
But it's not strictly Christian.
Well, hang on. Whoa.
Well, Confucius, he said it too. So it's not, your fresh, unique discovery.
No, but if I mean, you're a big fan of talking about soldiers going into other countries, and they can do what they want, and you proudly say that they rape women, and your ex-cohort John Vance was saying they deserve to be raped, and you're laughing and egging them on. So that is Christianity taken out of people. And the results are that.
Oh, come on. Are you saying that the Crusaders didn't rape and pillage? Come on.
No, they were horrendous. I mean, completely not following the letter of the law. I mean, yeah, they deserve to be like what happened with them. I mean, yeah.
But I'm saying it just happens in any war, whether they're Christian or not. This is, this is sort of the thing that happens when your country has been invaded by a foreign army.
Right, but you chose to live in a Christian country, and probably you might think it's because of its educational offerings or because of its history, But if it wasn't a Christian country, I say you wouldn't have come.
Well, no, I would say, well, I chose to live in the West because I like the idea of living in the West, with all the things that came with it. Yeah, I'm happy to admit that. But
Mm.
just because, if Christianity went away, it wouldn't be okay. The most important thing about Christianity that distinguishes it from Judaism or anything else is, this supposed belief in the divinity of Christ, which I know you don't kind of even know is what you're supposed to believe in, but this is what it was in the beginning.
I feel that it's possible for someone to think with you that the amount of times that you promote that Christianity is kaput, isn't it a bit hypocritical that you enjoy the proceeds of Christianity?
I enjoy the rule of law that is still left in the West. I know that the West was built on its Judeo Christian heritage, which actually I was talking about with Spacepan, which he denies. And I said, how can you deny it? This is your book, even though you don't believe in it now. There is a White
Mm-hmm.
House Bible. So how can you, a lot of morality is directly from the Bible. So I
Mm.
don't see how you can deny it. And then even the American Constitution, you know, man is created equal. It's like, well, who created man? I mean, the assumption, the unspoken assumption, is that God did. And today I was reading about the religious beliefs of Washington, and it's quite interesting that he more or less denied the Trinity or refused to affirm it, even though he was born an Anglican. And the Americans, it's really the Americans who became Unitarian. This thing about the Church of Divine Signs you were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
which Emmett Fox, joined. It was all about, yeah, we believe in God, but we don't believe in this idea of Christ being the co-equal of God, which is, you know, the doctrine of the Trinity, which is
Mm-hmm.
the belief of Catholics and Anglicans and the Orthodox Church. And I know you don't really care because it's not, drummed into you, but once upon a time it was. You had to believe, you had to affirm, and you had to keep saying you did. And if you didn't, you might get, burnt as a heretic or treated
Yeah.
as an atheist and a blasphemer.
Mm. Claire, can you just hold the fort? I just need to go to the bathroom for a
Sure,
minute.
sure, I'll
Back,
talk to
back,
the
back
chat.
quickly.
Well, Jen, why are you talking about beers and deep fried pig ears? Why are you calling me evil, Jen? Why? How am I being deceitful? What are you saying I'm lying about? Jay is an animal, but then human beings are animals, Jen. Well, Jen, you can come on later and we can talk about the proto-nohidism. Jen says, I asked Claire if the Jews were the source of legalism. Well, I don't know what you mean by legalism. A lot of words need to be defined, and we can talk about that later too.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Have you been talking to the chat?
Yes.
Is there many people watching?
Not bad. I think it was sort of nearly 20, but it's gone down now. But it's still
Oh,
okay.
that's because I disappeared. They'll come back now.
The more people in the chat now.
Um, yeah, good. OV had about 30 people on last night, which compared to what many streams have been going recently, that was quite a lot, I think.
Well, I found Weekend Review quite interesting, but for my own purposes.
I
Did you
looked over.
listen to it in the end?
No, I was on OVs, but they were really laughing at her because uh, there's a couple of guys on there, and they kept commentating like she's down to 7 views. Oh, she's up to 8. And I looked over and I think I wrote in the chat like, let's see if we can get it up to 10, and things like that. I mean, it was pretty cruel. Like, I mean, I don't know if part of me feels sorry for her. I mean, it must be difficult saying you're as great as you are, similar to how the Jews say we're chosen, and yet not delivering it. It's not a good place to be, is it?
Well, I think Jen was talking about cognitive dissonance last night. And,
Why?
and cognitive dissonance is the difference between what you think the world should be and what it is.
Hmm.
So I thought it was quite
Say
revealing.
that. Well, I guess that's what politics and religion's about, really. It's like, you know, how everybody's politics comes from their own perspective, and a person's political views and religious views, I guess, is like how they want the world to be. But in cases like Jen and the Jews, they don't demonstrate it, and that's how, you know, that's when people just think charlatan and fraud, and the hatred, the anti-Semitism is from lack of demonstration of what they preach. So you cannot say one thing and you demonstrate another and expect a rational. In Gandalf's case, you must respect me, and it's like, well, you're a fucking idiot half the time. So half the time I'll think you're a fucking idiot. Like you cannot, you cannot act. And I think as well as being a parent, I know most people on these streams are not parents, but you learn as a parent that you cannot perform to children or even pets as well in a certain way, and you can't kick the dog and want the dog to like you. Yeah. And if you say to the dog or the child, you must like and respect me, if not, I'll hit you again or whatever, which is your philosophy, though, isn't it? I think that your philosophy on stuff is do this, or if not, I'll lash you. It doesn't work. Humans don't operate like that. You might, but where I think you might fall flat is you don't understand the human condition.
What is a human condition?
Well, it's a lot more than just barbaric lashings. Motivation, ambition, sense of purpose, things like that. I mean, you think that just by threatening to lash somebody,
There's
you're
carrot
going
and stick.
is what sorry?
There's carrot and stick. You can use a carrot to motivate the donkey or the stick to motivate it too. Or you can use a combination of both.
Yeah, and you've got a whip.
No, I use carrot. I mean, I know what you like, Jay. I know
Carrot.
you like the sound of your own voice.
Well,
And I know it's therapy as well.
I've never.
It's
No,
therapy.
no,
A
no.
lot of this is therapy for so many people.
I mean, I would say that you've probably accused me of 20 things religiously over our time, and I would say probably 19 of them you're completely wrong, and I've given up.
Which one am I wrong about, Jay?
I like the sound of my own voice.
You do.
Well, I've never listened to a stream back that we've done.
Well, I think maybe you should. Maybe you should. I actually enjoy doing it now. Just
No,
because I find it so revealing of myself and of others. of the
Do you
person
know?
I'm speaking to?
Yeah, well, I once saw when it was a while ago. I tuned in, and we obviously both had our cameras on before we went live, and you didn't know I was there, and you were listening. You had your headphones in, and I thought you were listening to Mozart or Handel or Beethoven or you know something extremely orgasmic, and you were nodding and smiling, and I thought it was quite a nice view. And then when you suddenly realise, you're like, oh, hi, Jay. And I'm like, oh, hi, Claire. Yeah, we know what you're listening to. And you said, oh, I was listening to my recent speech, my recent stream that I did on my own. And you accused me of liking the sound of my own voice.
Well, no, I don't. I don't listen to it for my own voice. I listen to it for the content.
Do you
And
listen to
obviously, I'm talking.
Do you
I
listen
guess
to
it might have been a monologue. I wish I knew which stream it was that I was listening to.
Are they any different? I mean, are they any different from
Well,
each other?
it's different because I have different people on, and they don't always say the same thing, Jay. They don't always say the same thing.
Mm, I think this was a monologue. I think it was in the days when you were streaming 15 times a day, almost trying to get a ban from YouTube. I think it was
Okay, but
strange.
maybe
But
it's therapy for me too.
well, I think it's okay. Where you're wrong is I most of the time I enjoy um, streaming with you, and most of the time I enjoy it with all the time with Conops, but and with OV most of the time. So we were talking about boxing and stuff today. So it's for me, it's fun. It's interesting, and that's really it. You know, it's like I don't watch TV. I don't watch box sets. I don't do a lot of normal things. I find this more um, fun or just stimulating. It's better. It's better to do it most of the time than not. But I think until you or I get a better perspective on the other's um, point of view, then it's gonna get worse. Which is why I'm leaving. I'm going to take a break from this stuff because it's just going into the you've already started coming out with the same old stuff, and I'll retaliate to you, and so it's silly to go down that route of you'll start calling me Islamophobe, and I'll start talking about like raping camels, you know.
Yes, yes, but it's an interesting, you know, it is in a way like therapy. So you say one triggering word, and then you get into the same old spiral of repeated words,
I'll
repeat
throw this one
behavior.
at you. I would say that your slut wish. Um, so today I said to you that I'll be going to Sweden to see Woman, and straight away you're on about sluts and yeah. I don't think you mentioned lashings, but you mentioned sluts. Now I would say to you that your ideology will probably work for 1% of the world, because there are some 1% of people that are that retarded that they will respond to not getting lashed.
Well, Ovi, come on. Ovi actually said he agreed with me on that subject. Oh, but before I forget, for some reason, Jen wants you to watch her on JF. So, I don't know why, but she does.
All right. Tell her thanks for the offer, but I shall decline.
It
I
will
don't
be
like
above your head anyway.
it. What? Sorry.
It will go over your head anyway.
I find him. I find him. I don't know. I've got my own
I don't like him
peculiar.
either. I can't take anything he says seriously. I mean,
Is
apart
it?
from the
Is,
French accent, the fact that all the things I know about him now makes me not able to take him seriously.
well, is it? Is it his accent?
Yeah, it's like it's a cartoon. I can't
Do-
take him seriously.
Is it like he's 4'3" and he's got somebody else's head on his shoulders?
Oh, you
Like,
mean OV?
no, not OV. OV's 5'2", man. You know, OV's not 4 foot.
Oh,
OV.
right. Okay.
Do you know
Okay.
what? Do you know what OV was boasting to me today? OV's boast to me today was, and this is when there was another guy on the stream saying like, OV, like you brought me into all of this. You know, you're like my hero, and when you moved to North Dakota, I'm going to continue this, and you know, it was like how it was worse than poor Gandalf used to look up to Jen and Duvid. It was pretty bad. And OV liked it. OV was like, hey, well, you know, and OV said basically, I've had the same character since I was 3. And OV meant that as a sign of strength, I think.
Well, I
That was,
haven't changed since I was
yeah.
3. Well, Jen's like that. Jen's like that. I haven't changed my mind about anything. You know, it's like, yeah, are you sure that's a good thing? But no.
Well, they have to be. That's like the rich young man in the Bible. The certainty of their opinions is, you know, stops the world going round. I think they're so righteous with their own. Um, it's obviously arrogance, but it's almost like insanity as well. Because if the when things are put to them that are clearly uh, goes against what they think, and their evidence is completely contrary to what the evidence is contrary to what they say, they still have to pretend that they think they're right. I mean, it's an uncomfortable place to be. Maybe that's why I'm quite happy to be wrong with like a lot of things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Being right about something doesn't have the same buzz as what it probably used to, where you're like, yeah, I told you I was right, and people don't look up to you; they just hate you more.
Yeah.
You know. So you said you had some good ideas over the last few days. Did you want to expand more on them that you'd had from the weekend? You said you had a good. You talked to Space Pan. You said that went really well.
Well, you actually listened to it, but I know it went over your head as well. But yeah, the question on of American exceptionalism, because I need to suck up to the Americans, you know, with the
Mm.
election and stuff, which may be cancelled.
Well, I think what they might do. I mean, who was I talking to today? Can't remember. Um, I think it's possible they might chuck Biden in with Trump on the one-to-ones, and he'll get a hammer, and we know that.
Mm.
And I think they might pull him out with a month to go, and they might bring in not even the vice president. They'll bring in Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, or someone. They'll know that Biden ain't going to win, and they might as well just do what's called a Sunday punch,
What's
where
that?
a Sunday punch in boxing is where you basically close your eyes and swing your arm and hope that it lands.
Uh huh.
And I think it's possible that Biden might have a health scare around September, October, and they'll pull him out and replace him with like a show busy. You know, I don't think the mayor of New York will do it, but Michelle Obama, something like that.
Do you think the Americans can bear it? You know.
She'd stand more chance of beating Trump than what Biden would. You've got to go with Trump with something freakish. I mean, you cannot beat him with politics. Look what he did to the Republicans when he came in as an amateur against 15 Republicans. He hammered them all.
I actually think Trump is unbeatable at the moment. You know, it doesn't
Well,
even matter if he says silly things. You know, it's like he, you know, who else is there? I will, you know, can they bear? I don't even know. Can Obama's stand again? Or since he's
no,
given it a bit of a
I think
break?
that there might be people in the chat who know more than me, but I think once an American has had 2 terms, that's it for him or her personally. Um,
Forever.
mm,
It can't be like, well, I didn't do a third term, but can I start again?
mm.
Mm.
But yeah. So I think. But is this because of the virus thing? I assume that they're talking about not having the election in November.
Well, I mean, at first they said, "Oh, they'll never do that, never do that." And I thought, well, why not? I mean, you know, if I were Trump, I'd be pushing for to cancel the elections. But he seems, or he's not bothered either way because he thinks he's going to win anyway. So he's not pulling out all the stops to, you know, cancel the election.
Well, politics it's about timing as well. I mean, Trump did say a couple of months ago when things were going well, he said it's good to back off. I mean, you want to be coming with a wet sail in 2 months before, a month before. You really want to, you know, there's no point in him being 70% of the polls now and 47% in November. It's the same as boxing. It's about knowing when to attack. Chess is the same as well. So I'm going to disappear for quite a while. Got things to get on with, and I think it's been obviously interesting and to see things how they come back. How do you see the next few months going in the streaming community?
Well, I think lockdown is a great opportunity for people to make their point. You know, if they're on board with the whole idea that our governments are behaving really stupidly, then lockdown has not really helped things. And you know, it's like you shot yourselves in the foot, the stomach, and the head, and all for what? You know, and who are the people who want more lockdown? The productive people? No. And who are the people who said lockdown must be done? People who didn't even believe in their own instructions, like that Scottish woman who got caught visiting her own holiday home after she said no one is to visit their holiday home.
And the scientist, the head, yeah,
who had an affair with this married woman who, surprise, surprise, is working for some left-wing outfit promoting climate change and all that shit. So obviously he didn't even believe. You know, it's like he's caused loss and damage to so many businesses, big and small, and he didn't even believe in his own instructions. And Boris is carrying on. I mean, fuck that.
I've never been outside as much as in like since lockdown. It was as if they said you're only allowed in your house for 1 hour a day. I mean, the weather's got good over the last month, but I mean, I'm not running around shopping centres hugging people, but you know, from 5:30 in the morning, in the morning, I'm out at, I'm meeting people at 6:30, then 7:30, and that's like out in, you know, places, open spaces or whatever. It's not like, you know, indoors and stuff. But I think that in 20 years, 100 years, whatever, people will look back to this and it'll be like laughing stocks sort of thing. I think it'll be like the history or the response from people is incredible. I mean, as I've said before, on a Thursday night, in front of one of my big windows, I've got a big iMac, like a big, huge computer, and I hide behind it. Last Thursday, I was looking across at one or two houses, and there was people looking out the windows, looking gingerly down the street, waiting for the first person to come out to do the clapping. And I was like, oh my God, like they which one's going to come out first? And none of them don't want to come out in case they get like known as, oh, that person didn't come out and clap. And for me, it's not about appreciating or not appreciating NHS people and all that. It's more about just doing fucking something that's stupid. I could happily send people money or say thank you for your help and all of that, but I've got friends who are doctors and nurses, and they say it's fucking worthless. This like 8 o'clock, and sure enough, someone to open the door, and someone else opened the door, then everybody come out and they start banging pans and clapping. And, I guess it is one of them moments where, you might think that maybe OV things would have been better if OV's lot had done better or something. The British people like getting giddy and orgasmic with the experience of banging pans together. I don't get it. I do not. It's embarrassing.
Well, it's almost a kind of ritual humiliation if you're doing it without believing in it, but you're only doing it because you're afraid of your neighbours noticing that you didn't.
No, that's British. I mean, that's completely British. We'll have to do things for the fear of not looking British or not looking Christian as well. I'll give you that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad I'm out of it. I never started doing it, so nobody's going to notice me not doing it anymore. But once I came back from the shops and I saw, just after 8. I mean, just before 8, and I saw people, opening their front doors, and it's like, yeah, you're looking pretty sheepish. There was a sign of reluctance, really. It's like, oh my God, I have to do this again, but I have to do it, you know. I just noticed on one, the face of one of my neighbours, you know. And you just felt sorry for them, but anyway.
Have you spoke to Elizabeth recently?
No.
I mean, she's hilarious with this stuff. I mean, you know what she's like with the way she thinks people and sheeple and stuff like that, and she's nasty with it. I mean, she's like the more insane people are getting, the more she's just like ripping it apart really brutally.
I loved her story of the pre-lockdown story of panic buying of loo rolls, panic going to the pub before the pubs closed, and I thought good on you, that guy who did, because obviously he knew that he wouldn't be able to go for ages. I mean, we don't even know when the pubs are going to open now.
Mm.
I mean, not that you care, but I mean,
No,
I'm not that bothered. But I guess for people who have pubs and want to
pubs,
go,
I know. I read
terrible.
pubs. It's even talking about it is depressing, isn't it? So what's going to go on the streams? And I mean, looking when I came a couple of months ago when I started chatting again, things had obviously gone a bit south in a lot of areas. I mean, there was less people streaming, less people watching, apart from Kevin Michael Grace. So whilst you and other people were saying that YouTube are out to get us and YouTube are not letting us get to 1,000 and things like that, but Kevin Michael Grace has seemed to have done well out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he has a consistent brand, and people like that. And I think a lot of it is not even so much that people are listening, because I know it's like I just said all this, and you were there, but you did not, you didn't absorb any of it. So why do people come? They come just to post in a chat and be with their mates, and they're not paying attention. So, that's something else to consider. And then, therefore, if you have a message, you have to drum it in for months and months and months. And then, a year later, they've forgotten it completely. So, this is the kind of, pushing a stone uphill experience that you get, I guess.
Mm, mm. Yeah. Anything on Vance? Have you heard from John Vance, or is he
Well, he
still?
posted something short, which I actually didn't even didn't view completely. It was something about the Trinity and David Woods and having some sort of debate, and this is the extent of his activism now. He's just not doing anything much. But then, okay, it's Ramadan and he's fasting, so I don't know.
I mean, how many days will he need to get rid of his weight? He'll need about 3 months, won't he? Because he put about 5 stone on after hanging around you and then Jen. I mean, he's the only poor fucker, I think, that's ever been under the spell of you and the spell of her. I think he was under her for a day, which is probably just as traumatic. I mean, look at Gandalf. And under you for, God, 3 months, was it? Or 6 months?
Yeah,
And
I guess it was pretty good going, and I still have Alex Woodrow for, and I do thank him for drawing my attention to the religious views of George Washington.
mm.
Um,
See, Alex Woodrow, he's got a good brain on his head. He's a good communicator, and he speaks some sense. So, I mean, some people would think, "What the hell is he doing?" You know, with your stuff. But I guess that's good. I mean, um, I think it's fair to say that John Vance has ended up, a drunken Muslim in a mosque. I mean,
well,
it's like,
I think his problem really is that he's burnt so many bridges with his people that he has to keep in with his new Muslim community, or not have any friends at all. So I think that's a problem.
any more? Is there any more news on Gandalf at all? Has he made a return or anything, or is there any, dare I say it, gossip?
I haven't heard anything about Gandalf.
I sent him an email. He always used to reply, but he hasn't this time. So he may have disappeared. Well, what I've noticed since reappearing is that the ones that are consistent is yourself, Conops, and to a point OV. That's really it, I think. But then again, that's just my small circle, isn't it? Like,
Well, we are a very small community, really, when you think of it.
No, but there's a lot of people dropped out. They were talking about it today on OVs. I mean, not just Brundle, but like just a lot of people that were talking about, like people who I streamed with. Even I can't even remember them. Oh God, we mentioned 3 or 4 of them.
What? Okay, I can think of Otto. I can think of Eke. I can think of
Walrus,
yeah.
and who else was there? Heinrich.
But he never really streamed, did he? He just posted.
Yeah, I did some stuff with him. I mean, 1 or 2, 2 things. Yeah,
Well, he's calling himself something else now, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, but it'll be interesting to, I was thinking just tonight about where things may go. I think my prediction is I think Brundle will start streaming with Kevin.
Right. Well, he's a certain Ricardo Williams is often on Kevin's streams, but then he was on Week in Review yesterday, calling out for me, but I wasn't allowed to appear.
Oh, are you still banned on there?
I'm hidden, completely hidden, on both my accounts. That's what I'm dealing with.
And how does that make you feel?
I feel that I can still. I don't mind her posting in my streams. I don't mind her coming on. I'm a generous soul, and I welcome the opportunity to demonstrate my magnanimity that she has not been able to show in return. So
well, I know, but I mean, she's fairly vulnerable, But it's quite amusing how a lot of the insults thrown at you and a lot of the accusations don't really have that much effect.
Well, I've got the skin of a rhinoceros now, and I guess I have to owe it to my activism. You just don't really care. I actually find Saigon Green's ridiculous statements quite funny.
Saigon is top man. I think he's. I've actually gone on and joined in with him. I mean, just for the fun of it, to do with bat wings and. He's
become a sort of feature like Dr. Mengele.
No, I was writing. What did I write? I said Claire knits hijabs with chopsticks, and it's utter
nonsense,
childish carnage. But once you start doing it, you kind of you outdo the other one, and it goes on and on and on and on, and you know,
Well, as long as
it.
you're having fun, Jay.
Yeah, no, he's good. I don't think he'll come on stream. I don't know where he
Well, I
is,
mean,
but
you just wonder what he looks like. Is he a goblin or something? A dwarf or I don't know. I have such strange ideas about him because we don't know what race he is but he's got something horrible for every race on earth. He
well,
hates everyone and everything and thinks of the worst possible things to say.
um, I remember him saying that he can't come on because his English is not very good.
Yeah, but it's not
Yeah,
bad, is it?
no. I mean,
So
is
it's
he on?
all lies.
Is he on now? Let's have a
And,
look. Hang on.
he was on earlier. I think he's gone now.
Oh, you've got 21 people watching,
Yeah, not
which is
bad, huh?
which is good.
They all come for
Um,
you.
no, it's not me. It's the effect I have on you. I make you sound. I make you appear human.
I don't mind. I don't mind. I mean, if you all want to think me inhuman, that's all right. But, the more people appear on a stream, the more people watch it. It's like a law of nature.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to head off. But have you got anybody else coming on, or are you going to close it down? Is Conops around, or
I don't
anyone?
know. I don't know. I've sent Jen the link, but she may be waiting for you to go, or she may have no plan to come on. But I can go through the chat and stuff, after you've gone and maybe think of a few things to say.
Oh, good. Well, I've enjoyed chatting to you tonight, and it'll be interesting to monitor your progress and see where things go.
Well, thank you for taking an interest. I wish you an interesting sabbatical, a restful and rewarding, regenerating sabbatical from all this.
Mm. No, it's good. All right, we'll speak to you later.
All right then. Take care,
Bye, Claire.
Jay, and thank you for your contributions.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye. Are you going to come on, Jen? Jay's only leaving for the summer. I think he's visiting somebody somewhere. Oh, I've got a song dedicated to me. Cliff Richard's Devil Woman. I know that one. The Church of Entropy says I would ban worship of any other god. No, no, no. Secular Quranism guarantees freedom of belief under Chapter 2, verse 256, which says, there is no compulsion in belief. Truth stands clear from error. So, Church of Entropy says, I asked Claire if the Jews were the source of legalism and she wouldn't answer. Now, what do you mean by legalism? I would say legalism is just law, and I would think the Ten Commandments are the beginnings of the rule of law. Of course, the Torah is with Deuteronomy and Leviticus. So that got the whole idea of the rule of law going. And of course, the next one was the Quran. I know before that was the Code of Hammurabi, and that was quite good for what it was, but Hammurabi is dead and the Babylonian Empire is now extinct, but the Jews still continue. Church of Entropy says, she agrees that anyone who believes in the rule of law is a proto-Noahide, which seems insane. That's what Duvid said, and what Duvid meant by proto-Noahide is kind of sub-Noahide. So implicitly he is saying that anyone who does believe that there should be universal laws, and he was talking in particular about Stefan Molyneux with his idea of universally preferable behaviour. I don't think in his essay Molyneux even listed what they were, but we can assume that they would have included some or all of, well, some of the the Noahide laws. So we think Stefan would have included the rule against homicide, the rule against theft, the rule against some kind of sexual immorality, and would agree that animals shouldn't have their limbs torn off them and eaten before they're dead, and he would probably agree that there should be a legal system to enforce the laws through the courts. But since we anticipate that Stefan would object to having laws forbidding idolatry and blasphemy, being an atheist and libertarian himself, he wouldn't agree with the whole package of the 7 Noahide laws. And this is presumably why Duvid calls Stefan proto-Noahide. Proto meaning primitive. Let me check again. I should really have the definition of proto. Primitive, beginning. First or earliest, original or primitive. Okay. So yeah, what Duvid said makes absolute sense to me, even if it doesn't, to Church of Entropy. I wish Jen would tell me exactly why she thinks I'm being deceitful without specifying the nature of the lie that she's accusing me of. So Judge of Entropy says, I don't change my mind even when the evidence is overwhelming. So what evidence of what is overwhelming? Jen can never disprove free will, so she's still not getting it about what she identifies herself as when she calls herself a nihilist. Yes, I agree with you about Chinese liquor. It's the sort of thing that you drink and you get the hangover before you even get drunk. I quite like bourbon though. And I certainly like craft beers. Mass psychology. I think I know a lot about that, Jen. I'm not trying to be Jewish, Bandito. So Jen says, oh, have I lost it? Judge Everybody says, Claire also thinks the Chinese are more no-hide than the West, even if they're atheists who frequently eat living animals. Well, it's hard to... Maybe it's not that hard to measure. So I'm saying that the more you find yourself following the no-hide or Quranic laws, the better off you tend to be. And it's possible to unconsciously follow Islamic principles. But because you don't know they're Islamic, or you don't know you have to follow them forever, you stop following them and then your empire declines. Thank you, Tom Anderson, for saying that Oh, you meant the other way. Well, Tom, I really don't see how Jen won the debate. If you want to analyse what she said against what I said and try to find the number of sound arguments in hers compared to mine. But I don't think anybody can be interested to even read the transcript of the debate, short though it is, because most people are atheists and they think it's stupid to have a debate about a non-existent being. So Judge Andrew says Claire thinks that Jews should obey Tanakh even though they have never once instituted it in the state in the entire time they've existed. Well, I think they must have been a theocracy at one point, even though they moved away from that and stopped following their own rules in the way that liberals and conservatives have stopped following their own rules because they haven't written it down and it's not divine scripture, so they think, well, it's just some dead person saying this thing. Maybe we can do better and we're still alive. So that's a point of having divine scripture, Jen. Now, what I think should happen is that Israel should adopt secular Quranism, and once they do, the rest of the West will. So I'm hoping that that happens. Well, think of it this way, Jen. When you say, Claire is saying none of us get to do our ethno-religion except Jews who are forced to do their ethno-religion or assimilate. Now, this is a good time to talk about Greater Israel. So, what I offer to Jews is this. If you want Greater Israel, which is actually a huge piece of territory, you would have to use Sharia to entice all these various Arab Muslims of different countries to want to join you. They could join you by pooling their sovereignty as the different European nations did under the EU. And obviously they're not going to join if it's a Torah theocracy. And they're not going to join if it's a liberal democracy. So they'll only join if it's something based on the Quran, and secular Quranism is based on the Quran. And I suppose if the Israelis start doing well, then other people will want its neighbours, its Arab Muslim neighbours, might just want a bit of the action. And when they adopt secular Quranism, I think Jewish identity will necessarily be diluted because there's already a viable, non-Jewish option of existing, which the law of the land would have to be in order to become bigger. But of course you must, always respect the peoplehood of the Christians and the Jews. What you can expect is that, over the centuries, over the generations, people will will just assimilate anyway and adopt the easier option, because that's already considered godly enough, i.e. the no-hide laws, or a no-hide religion such as Islam. The point of the Quran is that the rules are both easy to understand, precise, and fair enough, and from God. while the rules in the Torah are considered oppressive even by Jews. Yes, I'm doing quite well, thank you, Tom, for asking. Do you want to come on, Elliot? Jen doesn't seem to be wanting to come on. So Jen says, the point of having divine scripture is to ignore it while you force other nations to change religions to one of your political cults. I don't understand the question, I'm afraid. So Jen appears to be claiming that Jews forced other nations to change religions to one. No, it doesn't make any sense at all, that sentence, so I'm not going to bother trying to explain it because it's impossible to explain nonsense. Okay, I've come to the end of the chat. I don't think I've missed anything out. So, thank you all for coming by.